The 2019 remake of Resident Evil 2 garnered resounding approval from Resident Evil fans. It only makes sense then that Capcom is remaking another beloved title in the series, Resident Evil 3. Rumors of a Resident Evil 3 remake have been brewing for quite some time, and now they're confirmed. There will be more changes from the original game than in the Resident Evil 2 remake, but you can still expect to be transported back to the world of Nemesis with some massive graphical upgrades. Which characters from the original will return, and how will their stories change? Is Mercenaries mode coming back? When's it coming out? Here's everything you need to know about the Resident Evil 3 remake. Fan favorite RE series protagonist Jill Valentine has gotten a major overhaul in the Resident Evil 3 remake. Capcom has replaced her less than practical tube top and miniskirt with similar but more pragmatic clothing, and her facial features are far more distinct. While some commenters have expressed frustration over Jill's new clothing, they'll be happy to know that her original outfit is still available. If you want a shirt that practically screams 90s girl, simply pre-order the game and the exclusive classic costume pack will be included with your purchase. As for Jill's updated face, it's actually based on a real person, Russian model Sasha Zotova. The model took to her Instagram account to reveal to her 34,000 followers that she was, in fact, the prototype for Jill Valentine's new design. Zotova went on to express her excitement to portray such a beloved character and to thank the fans for their support and kindness. Resident Evil 2's Mr. X has always been a formidable enemy, and the updated version in the remake reminded players of just how terrifying he is. When compared to the main antagonists of Resident Evil 3, however, there's no contest. Nemesis is as relentless and near unkillable as they come, and the remake turns the volume up even higher. The AI used for Nemesis in the Resident Evil 3 remake has produced a smarter villain who can adapt to situations and find the best way to make your life miserable as he hunts you down. Nemesis will have a flamethrower in the latest installment, and his tentacles will make escape almost impossible. He'll also be much more relentless in his hunt for members of the Star Squad, his new healing abilities that will make the fight seem almost laughably unfair. You'll need to rely on more than just firepower to overcome this enemy. Stealth, weaponry, and strategy will all be required to make it out of the Resident Evil 3 remake alive.
It's me he's after. I'll buy you some time.
Hey, wait! Wait, Jill!
RE3 fans will be happy to know that the lion's share of characters from the original game are returning for the remake, albeit with updated character models and more practical wardrobe choices, just like Jill. Though this list may not be all-inclusive, some of the characters Jill will encounter in the remake include Carlos Oliveira, Mikhail Victor, Nikolai Zinoviev, Tyrell Patrick, Murphy Seeker, Brad Vickers, and Dario Rosso. There may be more side characters present in the new game that haven't been listed here, but these are the characters whose redesigns Capcom has shared so far. With the immense success of the Resident Evil 2 remake, it was only a matter of time before Resident Evil 3 got the same treatment. This time, Capcom's taking it even further. In an interview with Japanese gaming magazine Famitsu, the game's producers stated that the Resident Evil 3 remake will have a lot more action than the original game, as well as topping the raised stakes of the Resident Evil 2 remake. The producers cited this as a major reason for making changes to Jill Valentine's character design, as much of the action would be awkward in her original ensemble. Though the specifics remain unclear, the producers promise that the remake will stay true to the original game while offering those familiar with it something new and exciting to discover. A large portion of the trailer revealed at Sony's year-end State of Play shows protagonist Jill Valentine running for her life in first person, leading many to believe the game would play from the same perspective as Resident Evil 7. While traveling through the chaotic Raccoon City in first person would be a thrilling experience, but that's not the case. Capcom has confirmed that the Resident Evil 3 remake will not be played in a first-person perspective. Instead, the game will play out with an over-the-shoulder angle, just like the Resident Evil 2 remake did. You'll still be relatively close to Jill Valentine as she runs from Nemesis and shoots zombies, just not right in her head.
We've gotta be dreaming.
We could certainly argue that the Resident Evil 3 remake, like the original game, is a kind of prequel, but there's more to it than that. The story of Resident Evil 3 begins a day before Resident Evil 2. In the original version of RE3, Jill's adventure in Raccoon City ends up continuing for a couple days longer than Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield's. While Jill doesn't exactly bump into Leon and Claire, the aftermath of her encounters against Nemesis can be seen throughout the Raccoon City police station in RE2. Resident Evil 3 will tie these locations even closer together, given all the amazing details seen in last year's RE2 remake. Tying the two games even more closely together will help to unify the Resident Evil story and will undoubtedly give die-hard fans a few fun Easter egg moments. Capcom has remained mostly tight-lipped on the exact ways the second and third games will intertwine. but has promised the end result will be exceptional. Capcom has made it clear that the Resident Evil 3 remake will diverge from the original source material. In the original Resident Evil 3, choices the player made early on determined whether another character saved Jill at the end of the game, or she just saved herself. These choices also determined the fate of Nikolai, which had major ramifications for other games, since a dead character shouldn't canonically show up alive and well in a sequel. The remake eliminates these multiple endings. Giving players one distinct conclusion means Capcom may be trying to fix the Resident Evil timeline, which has become a tangled mess given the abundance of spin-offs and side stories in the series. Establishing a unified timeline set up by the remakes would be incredibly helpful to anyone trying to make sense of the sprawling story. However, the exclusion of multiple endings from the Resident Evil 3 remake means Capcom is aware of the confusing and sometimes contradictory timeline, and is working to make it a bit more user-friendly.
It's really thanks to the community that we can make a game like this, so thank you so much for your continued support.
The original Resident Evil 3 included a popular unlockable mode called the Mercenaries, Operation Mad Jackal, in which players could pick one of the 3 mercenaries encountered throughout the core game. As their chosen mercenary, players were tasked with killing foes and exiting the bonus level before the timer ran out and the whole place exploded. The Resident Evil 3 remake won't include Mercenaries mode, but you'll still get some bonus gameplay with new characters. In the new Project Resistance mode, 4 players will form a team of survivors trying to escape from an experiment. The experiment is run by the 5th player, who controls a character called Mastermind. With asymmetric gameplay akin to Friday the 13th the game, teamwork will be an important element for the 4 survivors. So far, Capcom has confirmed 6 different survivor characters to choose from. Project Resistance promises to provide endless entertainment for players looking for some multiplayer fun, but it's understandably confusing when you try to fit it into the broader Resident Evil story. Thematically, Resistance looks like it fits perfectly with the Resident Evil 3 remake, but Capcom has made sure to specify that certain events in Resistance make it impossible to fit into the RE canon. The nature of Project Resistance as a multiplayer survival game means each round is bound to leave a lot of loose ends. This isn't conducive to keeping lore nice and tidy. Without knowing exactly what happens in Resistance, it's difficult to say which elements of the game could be labeled as canon compromising. But RE3 producer Peter Fabiano stated that Project Resistance was bundled with the Resident Evil 3 remake simply because they're thematically similar. It's considered an add-on gaming experience, not a standalone game. The Resident Evil 3 remake's file size is approximately 43 gigs, which doesn't seem all that special considering that lots of new games have file sizes of 80 gigs or more. But consider this, it's double the size of the Resident Evil 2 remake, which was just over 21 gigs. The Resident Evil 3 remake will revisit the same Raccoon City that was in the second game, with a much larger area of exploration available. This heftier map size combined with additional multiplayer content explains in part why the file size will be so much bigger. The Project Resistance multiplayer game, while relatively small where the map is concerned, will take up a large chunk of the 43 gigs that you'll have to dedicate to the Resident Evil 3 remake. So if you don't have a lot of free space on your hard drive at the moment, you better do some spring cleaning. Die-hard Resident Evil fans hoping for a deluxe edition of the newest game are in luck. GameStop is offering a special edition option that includes both digital and physical loot for those willing to shell out the extra cash. The GameStop Collector's Edition of the Resident Evil 3 remake is currently retailing at $179.99. The Collector's Edition includes the base game for your preferred platform, an 11-inch statue of Jill Valentine featuring her updated character design, a collector's art book, a double-sided poster of Raccoon City, and a digital soundtrack. Everything comes in a Stars item box package, just to give it that extra bit of authenticity. Those who pre-order will also receive a code for the classic costume pack featuring Jill and Carlos's outfits from the original Resident Evil 3. When the Resident Evil 2 remake first launched, Capcom teamed up with Numskull to create some highly coveted Resident Evil-themed pieces, and history is about to repeat itself. Capcom and Numskull have worked together once again to create new Resident Evil 3 remake merch. The new items include a Stars Collector's Pin, an Umbrella Metal Badge mug, a triple pin Umbrella badge set, a Welcome to Raccoon City mug, a Stars snapback, a Welcome to Raccoon City snapback, and an Umbrella snapback. All of this exclusive merch will launch on April 3rd, 2020, the same date the Resident Evil 3 remake releases. With the merchandise that Capcom and Numskull already created for the launch of the Resident Evil 2 remake, there are now about 25 coveted Resident Evil-themed pieces fans can load up on. Just like the merge, the Resident Evil 3 remake releases on April 3rd, 2020. And even though the Resident Evil 2 remake was plagued by delays, Capcom has stated the Resident Evil 3 remake is almost complete and on track for a timely release. This comes as welcome news, given that it seems increasingly unusual for a game to stick to its initial launch schedule these days. The Resident Evil 3 remake will be available on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC at launch. So far, there's no word yet on whether it will come to the Nintendo Switch. For PC gamers worried that their system won't be able to handle the newest title, you're in luck. As long as your PC was able to handle running the Resident Evil 2 remake, you should be good to go for Resident Evil 3. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more SVG videos about Resident Evil are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.